Imagine a world without Microsoft. No Windows operating system, no Microsoft Office, no Xbox, no Teams, no Azure cloud powering thousands of businesses. Can you picture how different our daily lives, work, and even entertainment would look? It's almost impossible. Because today, Microsoft is more than just a technology company, it's a global ecosystem that shapes how billions of people interact with technology every single day. Founded in 1975 by two young visionaries, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, Microsoft has grown into one of the most powerful and influential companies on Earth. Fast forward to today, Microsoft is not only one of the world's biggest software providers, but also a giant in cloud computing, artificial intelligence, gaming, cybersecurity, and enterprise solutions. In fact, if you're watching this video, chances are high that some part of your digital life is connected to Microsoft, whether you realize it or not. Maybe you're running Windows on your laptop. Maybe you've written a school paper in Word, created a presentation in PowerPoint, or collaborated with colleagues through Teams. Or maybe you've played your favorite game on Xbox. Microsoft is everywhere. To give you an idea of its scale, Microsoft products are used by over 1.4 billion active Windows devices worldwide. The Office suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, is used in schools, universities, offices, and even governments across the globe. And let's not forget Microsoft Azure, the company's cloud computing platform, which is one of the top 3 global cloud providers, competing head-to-head with Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud. And it doesn't stop there. Microsoft has positioned itself as a leader in AI research, investing billions in companies like OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, and bringing artificial intelligence tools into everyday productivity software. That means the way we write emails, manage data, or even brainstorm ideas is being transformed by Microsoft's vision of the future. But Microsoft isn't just a technology provider. It's a symbol of innovation, persistence, and business strategy. It has shaped the digital economy for nearly 5 decades, surviving challenges, lawsuits, the dot-com bubble, leadership changes, and fierce competition from companies like Apple, Google, and Amazon. Yet despite all the challenges, Microsoft has remained not only relevant, but dominant. As of today, it is one of the most valuable companies in the world, with a market capitalization exceeding $3 trillion in 2024. Yes, you heard that right, trillions. So, what exactly made Microsoft so successful? How did two young computer enthusiasts, who started in a small garage, manage to build a company that now touches the lives of billions? In this series, we're going to explore Microsoft's incredible journey, its beginnings, its rise to dominance, its challenges, and how it became the global powerhouse we know today. But before we dive into the history, let's take a closer look at what Microsoft represents right now, in our daily lives and in the global economy. Because to understand its story, we first need to understand its present. Every great company starts with a dream. And Microsoft's story begins with two young men, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, who shared an extraordinary vision at a time when most people didn't even know what a personal computer was. Bill Gates was a brilliant, curious kid from Seattle who had an obsession with computers from a very young age. Unlike most children, Gates spent hours learning programming languages, solving complex problems, and imagining how software could change the world. His childhood friend Paul Allen was just as fascinated by technology. Allen was a few years older, quieter, but equally passionate about the new digital frontier. Together, they bonded over their love for programming at the Lakeside School, where they first got access to a computer terminal. Remember, this was the early 1970s. Computers were massive machines, locked away in universities and big corporations. The idea that one day an average person could have a computer at home seemed almost impossible. But Gates and Allen believed otherwise. They saw the future before others could even imagine it. Their big breakthrough came when they read about a revolutionary new machine, the Altair 8800. It was one of the very first personal computers, and it immediately sparked their imagination. Gates and Allen knew this was their chance. They believed every computer needed software to run, and they could be the ones to create it. With that vision in mind, they contacted the makers of Altair and boldly claimed they had already developed a programming language for it. The truth? They hadn't written a single line yet. But that didn't stop them. Working day and night, fueled by nothing but ambition and raw determination, they created a version of the basic programming language that worked on the Altair. When they finally presented it, it worked flawlessly. This was the beginning of something huge. In 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen officially founded Microsoft. Their mission was clear: to put a computer on every desk and in every home. At the time, that sounded crazy, unrealistic even. But it was exactly this bold dream that set them apart. They started small, but they had the mindset of giants. They weren't just writing code, they were laying the foundation for an entire industry. From a tiny office in Albuquerque, New Mexico, two friends with no money, no connections, and no safety net began building what would eventually become one of the most powerful companies in history. This was more than just the start of a business. It was the birth of a revolution. Bill Gates and Paul Allen weren't just dreamers, they were doers. And their vision to make software the heart of personal computing would change the world forever. Microsoft's true breakthrough came in the 1980s, when the world of personal computers was beginning to take shape. By then, Bill Gates and Paul Allen had already established their company as a promising software provider. But the real turning point came when a business giant knocked on their door, IBM. IBM was preparing to launch its very first personal computer, the IBM PC. They needed an operating system to run it. This was Microsoft's golden opportunity. Gates and his team didn't actually have an operating system ready at the time, but with their usual boldness, they promised IBM they could deliver. Microsoft quickly acquired an existing system called QDOS, modified it, and presented it as MS-DOS. It worked. And when the IBM PC was released in 1981, powered by Microsoft software, the world began to change. Suddenly, computers were no longer just for big corporations or research labs, they were entering offices, schools, and eventually homes. And with every IBM PC sold, Microsoft's influence grew stronger. But there was a problem: MS-DOS was powerful, yet it wasn't user-friendly. You had to memorize commands and type them in, which intimidated many people. Bill Gates knew that for computers to truly become universal, they needed to be simple, visual, and easy for everyone to use. That's when the idea of Windows was born. In 1985, Microsoft introduced Windows 1.0. It wasn't perfect, but it was revolutionary. For the first time, users could navigate with a mouse, click on menus, and open multiple programs in Windows on the screen. This shift, from lines of code to a graphical interface, was a giant leap that brought computers closer to ordinary people. Over the next decade, Microsoft kept improving Windows, releasing version after version, each more powerful and user-friendly than the last. Windows 3.0 and Windows 95 were massive successes. By the mid-1990s, Microsoft wasn't just a software company anymore, it had become the backbone of the entire personal computer revolution. And it wasn't only Windows. Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint became essential tools for work, study, and communication. Around the world, millions of people relied on Microsoft products every single day. Whether in classrooms, boardrooms, or homes, Microsoft had become a household name. By the end of the 1990s, Microsoft was everywhere. Its software was installed on over 90% of the world's computers. Bill Gates had gone from a young programmer with big dreams to the richest man in the world, and Microsoft was leading the global tech industry. This was the breakthrough. This was when Microsoft transformed from a small startup into a global giant. A company that not only rode the wave of the personal computer revolution, but created it. And from this point on, Microsoft was no longer just a dream. It was a force that shaped the digital age, touching the lives of billions around the planet. By the late 1990s, Microsoft stood at the top of the technology world. Its Windows operating system was everywhere, powering almost every computer in homes, offices, and schools around the globe. Microsoft seemed unstoppable. But with great power comes great challenges. The first big challenge was competition. As Microsoft grew, so did its rivals. Companies like Apple, which had been in the game since the early days, were working on innovative designs and unique user experiences. In the mid-1990s, Steve Jobs returned to Apple, sparking a creative rebirth that would soon shake the tech industry. Meanwhile, new players like Google and Amazon were emerging, changing how people searched, shopped, and connected online. But perhaps the biggest threat Microsoft faced was not from competitors, but from governments. In the late 1990s, Microsoft was accused of being a monopoly. Regulators in the United States and Europe claimed that Microsoft was using its dominance to crush competition, especially by bundling Internet Explorer with Windows to push out other browsers like Netscape. This led to one of the most famous legal battles in tech history, the Microsoft antitrust trial. For years, the case dragged on. Microsoft was portrayed as the giant that wanted to control the future of computing. In the end, Microsoft was not broken up, but it faced restrictions and fines, forcing the company to rethink how it operated. The trial marked a turning point. Microsoft had to adapt, and the world began to see that even tech giants were not invincible. At the same time, the digital age was shifting. The Internet was exploding in popularity. People were no longer satisfied with just using their computers offline. They wanted to connect, to share, to explore the web. Microsoft tried to respond with its own online services, but it wasn't always successful. Rivals like Google and Yahoo were growing rapidly, taking the Internet in directions that Microsoft hadn't fully anticipated. Then came the 2000s, and with them, another challenge, the mobile revolution. Suddenly, people didn't want to be tied to desktop computers. They wanted devices that could fit in their hands, smartphones, tablets, and portable laptops. Apple's iPhone in 2007 was a game-changer. Google's Android followed quickly, dominating the mobile space. And where was Microsoft? Struggling to catch up. They tried with Windows Phone, but it never took off. They partnered with Nokia, but the results were disappointing. For the first time in its history, Microsoft was not leading, it was falling behind. The tech world was moving fast, and Microsoft risked becoming irrelevant. But one of Microsoft's greatest strengths has always been resilience. Even in the face of legal battles, failed products, and fierce competition, Microsoft never disappeared. Instead, it started to reinvent itself. Under new leadership, the company shifted its focus from trying to dominate every device to becoming the backbone of the digital world. The challenges of the digital age tested Microsoft's strength. It was no longer the untouchable giant of the 90s. But it was still alive, still powerful, and ready to evolve. The question was, how would Microsoft transform itself for the future? The answer would define the next chapter of its story. Today, Microsoft is more than just a software company. It's a global force that touches nearly every part of modern life. From the computer on your desk to the cloud services that power businesses, from video games to artificial intelligence, Microsoft's influence is everywhere. But to truly understand its legacy, we need to look at how it transformed not only technology, but also the way people live and work. When Bill Gates and Paul Allen first dreamed of putting a computer on every desk and in every home, it seemed almost impossible. Computers were huge, expensive, and inaccessible to ordinary people. But Microsoft software turned that dream into reality. Windows made computing personal, intuitive, and available to the masses. It wasn't just about technology, it was about empowerment. Microsoft gave people tools to create, to communicate, to connect, and to learn. That's a legacy that cannot be overstated. But Microsoft's story didn't stop there. Over the years, it has redefined itself time and time again. The company moved beyond operating systems to become a leader in cloud computing with Azure, a platform that powers some of the largest businesses and services in the world. It became a giant in gaming through Xbox, shaping entertainment for millions. And today, it is one of the leaders in artificial intelligence, investing in technologies that will define the future. Perhaps the most remarkable part of Microsoft's journey is not just its innovations, but its resilience. It stumbled during the mobile revolution, it faced government trials, it missed opportunities, but it always found a way to rise again. Microsoft's ability to evolve, to learn from failure, and to adapt to new realities is what has allowed it to remain one of the most powerful and influential companies in history. And so, what is Microsoft's legacy? It is the story of two young men with a bold dream, a company that grew into a global empire, and an idea that changed the way the world works. It is proof that innovation, vision, and persistence can transform not just an industry, but human life itself. As we look ahead, the future of Microsoft is still being written. Technology will continue to evolve, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, virtual reality, and more. New challenges will come, and new competitors will rise. But if history has taught us anything, it's that Microsoft will continue to adapt, to innovate, and to play a role in shaping the digital age. In the end, Microsoft's story is not just about software, or business, or money. It's about possibility. It's about the belief that technology can change the world, and the determination to make it happen. That is Microsoft's true legacy, and that is why its story will continue to inspire for generations to come.